Welcome to our weekly Forex forecast, and this is for trading for the week of November 25th to 29th, 2019. We are almost into December here, last month of our year. So let's finish strong. But before we get started here, just a quick disclaimer. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with your money. All right, so as usual, we'll start by taking a look at our calendar here. Okay, so this week here, let's do this week. All right, so actually before we dive into this, just quickly about what's going on overall. So last week, we saw back and forth with the US and China trade negotiations. There were some really positive comments, and then we saw that the US passed the bill for Hong Kong human rights bill, and after that we saw some negative comments, but then there were some positive comments out of China. Overall, basically there was some uncertainty as to what's going on with the US and China trade negotiations there. China was not very pleased about the bill. So right now, as things stand, there is uncertainty around that. So if we hear more negative comments, so if China gets upset about it, or if we just see more delays in getting the phase 1 trade agreement signed, that will be negative overall. So we could see a drop in equity markets, which means also a drop in our yen crosses as well. So that's just overall what's going on. So let's take a look at the news here. On Monday here, we do have the German IFO business climate that will have an impact on the euro. It's supposed to go up from the previous numbers. So if the numbers that come out match the forecast here, it will be positive for the euro. But if they don't, then we're likely to see the euro drop here. Other than that, just in the evening session, Monday is fairly quiet here. We have New Zealand dollar retail sales here. Again, New Zealand dollar, if we see these ones drop or they are below expectations, that will have a negative impact on New Zealand dollar. And then we have a Bank of Japan core CPI numbers here. This is an inflation number. Now, Bank of Japan, we heard some comments from Bank of Japan in regards to supporting or easing the monetary policy and even going more negative in interest rates. So if we hear, if the data comes out negative here or below expectations, then we could see Japanese yen drop, because then everybody will start expecting Bank of Japan to do more easing. So that will be negative for Japanese yen. We also have a Reserve Bank of Australia, Governor Lau is speaking here. These days, the central banks are really, really important, because we have heard all kinds of stuff from the central banks. A lot of the central banks are easing their monetary policy. So if we hear any kind of dovish comments in regards to the forecast or the concerns in regards to forecast for the economy and overall anything like that, that would be negative for Australian dollar. But if I recall from what Reserve Bank of Australia last said, they are basically holding their monetary policy steady at this point. And if that's the case, it likely won't have any impact on Australian dollar. But if the comments are slightly positive, then it can go up. But right now, from the last comments that came out from RBA, they're just holding it steady. On Tuesday in the New York session, we have consumer confidence numbers. On Friday, the numbers that came out for US were positive. And if we get the positive numbers here for consumer confidence as well, that will be positive for the US dollar. We did see US dollar go up. So if the numbers continue to come in positive here, it will be good for the US dollar. And then we have a Richmond Manufacturing Index. This is important here as well. And then in the towards a late New York session, we have trade balance numbers for New Zealand dollar. So right now, trade numbers are quite important. If there is if there's a difference here from what's expected, then we could see a reaction in New Zealand dollar, especially towards the end of the New York session. Liquidity tends to be quite low. A lot of people have already closed the trades, so we can see quite a bit of a move here based on the New Zealand dollar numbers here. So just keep an eye on it. And then we also have Reserve Bank of New Zealand Governor Orr speaking here. So just keep that in mind. Last time, Reserve Bank of New Zealand actually did not cut rates when everybody expected them to cut rates. So based on the comments, if something has changed from that stance from Reserve Bank of New Zealand, then we could see a reaction. But if they kind of stick to the same point, then not likely to see a big move here. And then we have construction numbers here for Australian dollar. Again, if the numbers are below expectations, then we could see Australian dollar drop. Wednesday here, a lot of numbers from the US. This week, US dollar did well, especially towards the end of the week here. So if these numbers are, especially the Chicago PMI numbers, are below expectations, we could have negative impact. But if they look positive, so this is supposed to come in higher than the previous number. If they are positive, we are likely to see US dollar get strong as a result of that. And then we have business confidence numbers for New Zealand and private capital expenditures. Both of these numbers will have an impact on these currencies, and especially when the numbers come out in the Asian session, because not many people are or traders are at their desks, actually have orders open, we generally tend to see a bigger move here, and sometimes that move gets price moves back. As a result of that, it gets undone, so just keep an eye on that. Thursday here, fairly quiet. Just keep in mind it's Thanksgiving in the US, so Thursday onwards the liquidity is likely to drop especially in the US session. So Thursday, Friday could be quite slow in terms of trading. Friday is Black Friday, and as a result, a lot of people will take Thursday, Friday, and then it'll be off. So it will be just keep that in mind, because a lot of times when taking trades, when liquidity drops, the market just doesn't move. And then Canadian dollar here, we do have GDP numbers month over month. And we have seen Canadian dollar move around quite a bit. So if these numbers are in line with the previous numbers here, that would be positive for Canadian dollar. And of course, last but not least, we have manufacturing PMI numbers. These, we won't see an impact on these till Monday or Sunday when the market opens. So if they drop, that would be actually negative for Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar, because those two currencies are tied into the data that comes out from China, because they are big exporters to China. So that's what we have coming up this week. So essentially, we are just looking at Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then market will slow down. I suggest not banging the head against the market when it's not moving. All right, so let's go into our charts. Okay, I'm going to take a quick look to see if I have US. If you guys see dollar index here, please let me know. Somebody had requested that I do the dollar index, but I do not believe my platform here shows me that. I have everything else but the dollar index. I have Nikkei, copper. Okay, so I do not think I have the dollar index on this one. Next time, I will see if I can pull up different charts for that. Okay, so we will not do the dollar index today because I do not see it here. Okay, so let's get into this. We'll start off with our euro dollar as usual here. For the euro, last week we were expecting it to go up a little bit, so it went right into this resistance level, and now we have a nice bearish pin bar here. Now do keep in mind it's right into our support here, so that could have a that could make things move a little bit, but bias is bearish here. So we have a nice pin bar. I love trading pin bars. So bias here is bearish. Do look out for a bit of a pullback. Sometimes we get these pullbacks, but bias is bearish. Next target here is to the downside. So I'm looking for a drop essentially here. And the target is 1.0920 as the first target. And only if price goes through this one can we look for a target right below this 1.0880 level. Now, keep in mind, this is where price turned from previously. So we may not get as big a move into that. We could see price turn there, so just be careful. But bias is bearish. 1.0920 is the first target. 1.0880 is the second target for euro dollar. Pound dollar here, this one also had a nice drop. We saw price go all the way into the top of the range. So as we can see, price has been trading in this range for several weeks now. It wasn't able to actually go through it. Last week, we were looking for it to move higher. It did, right into the resistance level here. And then we have a nice bearish candle from there. So now I'm looking for price to come back into the bottom of the range here. It's still range bound at this point. It has been range bound for several weeks here, and it hasn't gone up, hasn't gone down. It's stuck at this point. So looking for it to trade towards the bottom of the range. Now, be careful that when price comes here, if it doesn't go through, it can just turn back around as well. But if it tries to break out, we want to wait for it to pull back and hold below this level here at 1.2770 before taking this move lower. There is plenty of room to see a reversal here. However, price has not really, even though we had two opportunities here for price to break down, it hasn't broken down. So this is the third time I'm looking for a retest of this level. And if it doesn't break down, watch out for this move, and that can happen quite suddenly. So just keep that in mind. Bias is bearish. The first target is 1.2770, and only if it breaks down through, holds below 1.2770, would I look for the next one here. 1.2580 will be the second target. But again, I would be careful with that one. If it doesn't break down, it's likely to go higher. So bearish bias for now for the pound dollar. Aussie dollar here, this one is also bearish. We saw price drop here and now looking for a continuation. And as we can see, this one has also been range bound here. Price has just been going back and forth in this range. And now we have seen price drop from the top of the range, looking for a continuation towards the bottom of the range here. Along the way, there are some levels to watch here, like 0.6750. That's the first target, and then 0.680 is the second target here. So our bias here is bearish for Aussie dollar as well. New Zealand dollar, this one also rejected the top of the range. It's been, or towards the top of the range. This has also been range bound for a bit. Even in the recent weeks here, it's been stuck in this little range here. And now we see that price has rejected. We have a little doji here, rejected the resistance level here. So looking for price to drop here towards the bottom of the range, not looking for some huge moves here, just for a move towards the bottom here. 0.6320. So bias here is also bearish for New Zealand dollar. Dollar CAD here, this one has gone back and forth here. So if you take a look at the weekly, we see that price is into resistance right here. So it looks bullish, but it is into resistance. So I would be mindful of that. So bullish bias, but with extreme caution here because it can turn around here. So I'd watch out for that. There's a lot of resistance right here. So if it manages to stay below 1.3330, then I will look for price to drop. Otherwise, it can go higher right into 1.3380, and then I would look for a reaction there. As we can see, price had reacted at this level and around on this side here as well, and we could see a similar reaction here. So watch out for that. I would say bullish bias here, and targets again would be 1.3380 will be the target, but then it could turn around at 1.3320 or 3330. So watch out for that. Euro pound here, this one has been struggling with the bottom of this range here. It had dropped through the bottom, and then it's trying to get back here into the range that it had been trading in. It's right into the support resistance level here. We do have a bullish candle close. So what I would say is bias is bullish, but again, with extreme caution here because it's into resistance. If it doesn't break above the previous week's candle, we can still see a drop, but there is bullishness coming in. So bias is bullish once it manages to hold on the other side of 8580. Only then would I look for price move higher into 0.8650. So bullish bias, but with caution. Euro Swiss franc here, this one has been sort of stuck here at the resistance for the last few days here. So we do have a bullish candle, but it's into this resistance that it hasn't been able to really break through. So bias is bullish, but as we can see, there's a little bit of room to the upside here. So first target, so basically looking for it to go towards the top of the range here. This is the range that Euro Swiss franc has been trading in for several weeks here. And now if it manages to break through this week's high, then I'm looking at 1.1050. So bias here is bullish, but again, I wouldn't be overly bullish on this, just looking for a move back higher here. Okay, next one here is pound Swiss franc. So this is actually the daily chart here. As we can see here as well, price has been stuck in this range for quite some time. This is similar to pound yen in that price has been stuck. However, this one hasn't moved as much like pound yen has. It's just been stuck right here. So from a weekly perspective, we see a pin here from the top. So that suggests that price is rejecting the high here. So at this point, I would look for a drop towards the lower part of the range. So this is the range it's been trading in here. It's rejected the high with that pin. Now looking for a drop towards 1.2680. So bias here is bearish for our pound yen. Okay, let me just remove a couple of these lines here. So just looking for a move towards the bottom of the range. 1.2680 is the target. Dollar Swiss franc, this one is looking bullish here. This is the daily chart. We see it's right into our resistance here. So bias is bullish. The weekly candle is definitely bullish on this, but just keep in mind, it's again into the top of the range, right into the top of the range. A couple weeks ago, this was a really bullish candle here, and then it turned around. So bias here is bullish, but just be mindful that it's into the top of the range. That means price can turn around if it doesn't go through here. And it can come back into the range. So bias bullish at this point, but with caution. Next target is 1.0029, right into the pin there. So bullish bias for dollar Swiss franc. All right, let's take a look at our pound. So we talked about this pound yen just a little while ago when we were talking about pound Swiss franc. See how price has been trading in the range here. So it's right into the bottom of the range, just like pound dollar we looked at. It hasn't broken the range here, the bottom of the range, and that's a concern because if it doesn't break it, again, it can go back into the range like it did before. So as we can see, we had a nice bearish candle here, and then price turned around, another bearish candle, and we have yet another bearish candle. If it doesn't break through the support, it can go back towards the top of the range. So this is something we have to keep in mind when trading the ranges, that we have to see a break and a hold below for it to continue lower. So bias is bearish. It's nice bearish engulfing candle here. And the next target here will be to the downside, 137.20 here. The concern again would be if it, let's say, tries to make a break here, but then doesn't manage to hold below, it can go back up. What I would like to see here, in keeping with our bearish candle, is a break, hold below, and then a move lower, which then opens up this area, just like pound dollar. And it may not come all the way down, but at least it opens up this area for a drop lower. So bias bearish here, like I said, with caution. First target is 137.20, and if it continues lower, 135.50 potentially. Another thing to keep in mind here about pound that I haven't mentioned is that the elections, the UK elections, we are moving towards the elections in mid-December there. And as a result of that, the politics here can come into play in regards to Brexit and the elections. So keep in mind the comments that will come out in regards to that, and they can basically shape the path of pound, just all pound pairs. So just something to keep in mind. We have to keep close eye on US and China trade negotiations and the comments that come out from there, as well as Brexit or UK election related comments that come out. So right now, bias is bearish for pound yen. Euro yen here, this one is looking bearish as well. Oops. My apologies there. I think I accidentally hit the wrong button. Okay, so you meant to grab my pointer here. Okay, so looking at bearish bias here as well. Let me go to the weekly chart. Okay, as we can see from the weekly chart, bias is bearish here. We have a nice bearish candle close. So looking for a follow through towards the bottom of this range. So this one has also been trading in this range for 5-6 weeks here. So looking for it to come back down towards the pin here. 119.20 is the target here. That's the first target. And again, because it's trading in a range, if it doesn't break through the support, it's very likely to do one of these, just like it at one point. This was a nice bearish candle, and then it turned around. So this one can do the same. So watch out for that. But what I would like to see is one of these continuation moves. With this one here as well, we have this whole area to the downside that can get filled, and the chances of this getting filled would be higher than the pound one, just because it's not as big. So bias here is bearish. First target is 119.20, which is fairly close. Then only if it breaks through that level, 118.50, then 117. So bearish bias here for euro yen. And looking at our dollar yen here, this one is looking kind of neutral, a little bit of a bearish bias here. So I would look for price to basically move towards 107.80, but the candle is not very strong like we saw for pound yen or euro yen. So this one is a little bit more neutral. So bearish to neutral is what I'm looking for, basically just looking for it to come back down towards 107.80. So slightly bearish bias for dollar yen. Aussie yen here, this one is also basically stuck here. Didn't really do a whole lot on Friday. It just kind of got stuck. And then this one's looking bearish here. So looking for it to drop further towards this pin, 73.00, and only if it goes through this 71.80. So this is bearish as well for Aussie yen. New Zealand yen, this one has been stuck in a range for some time now, just like we saw with the pound here. Today's candle or this week's candle is neutral, which means it can go in either direction here. A New Zealand dollar got a boost when Reserve Bank of New Zealand basically came in and said that they are not cutting rates when everybody expected them to cut rates, and that's what has given it this strength, because everybody's easing and the Reserve Bank of New Zealand is not anymore. So at this point, that's the move I'm looking for. Basically, it is still range bound at this point. I would look for maybe a bit of a retest of the high and then a drop, looking for it to move towards the bottom of the range here. This is not the strongest pair that we could trade, so just keep an eye out. If it rejects the high, then I'm looking for a move lower towards 69. So target will be 69.00 and then 68.30 if it drops below the bottom here. See, we have had a really nice pin bar here, and then price has just been stuck in the range. Even with a nice pin bar, we didn't see a break, and this is where the Reserve Bank of New Zealand had come in. So if it doesn't drop through the support at 69, it can go back up. For now, it's bearish. Okay, Shepard has requested I do pound CAD. So pound CAD here for the last couple of days has been bearish on a weekly chart. This one does look bearish, but see how it's right into the top of that range. Now, price had made a break higher, but went into important resistance there. But see, it's into the top of the range. So here, I do like the pin bar. It's a nice pin bar, but we do need to see it hold below this and then drop. So bias is bearish. I would just be cautious, because if it doesn't hold below 1.7080, then it can go back up, and it may even do one of these. So just be mindful of that, because there is important support resistance right here. This was the top of the range, and that it was trading in before. So this is the range it was trading in. So now it broke out, and then it's trying to come back into the range. So bearish bias, just with caution. First target will be 1.6850. Second target, 1.6720. Now for all pound crosses, like I said, keep an eye on the Brexit and UK related, UK elections related news, because those tend to have make a difference here. All right, so let's take a look at our commodities now. We'll start off with silver here. Silver at this point is actually looking neutral. On the daily chart, we see that there is a bit of a drop here, but this entire week, it hasn't moved very much. It's just been stuck at this level here. So if you take a look at the weekly, this one is looking neutral at this point. So it looks like market's just waiting to see what happens. It hasn't broken the support yet. And what I would say is, if it holds above the support, chances are it will do one of these. So at this point, it is neutral bias. What I would look to trade would be basically at the tips here. If it goes through the high, then I'm looking for a further move higher. If it goes through the bottom of this, then we could get a move lower. But right now, for the last 2 weeks, it's just been neutral. It's not really going anywhere. It's just waiting. So neutral bias here. So we just need to keep an eye on how things break here. So that's neutral. Gold here, similar here. We have seen a bit of a drop here. So from a weekly perspective, we see that price has rejected this resistance level here. So we have a pin bar. So I will look for price to drop into the next support level here, into this one, and then we have to wait and see 1446 here. This is where last time price pushed off of this level. So at this point, we'll have to keep an eye on what's going on with, just from geopolitical perspective, to see where gold wants to go. So right now it's looking a little weak, looking for a move towards 1446 here, and then it will be decision time, and we'll have to see. This one could go back up here and become range bound. So bearish bias for gold for the moment. Oil here, oil has been back and forth as well. We see that price dropped quite a bit, and then it has pulled up all the way. That's quite a rejection here. So I will look for a move higher slightly into 59.20, but then that's also important support resistance level here. If it doesn't go through, I will look for a move back, just like it did over here, went into that level and then dropped. So at this point, it is looking slightly bullish here. 59.20 is the first target, and if it goes through, then we do have room here to the upside towards 61. So as we can see here, this one has also been trading in this range for quite some time, and now we do see that price had rejected the low, so now it's making its way towards the top of the range. So therefore, with this nice pin here, looking for price to move higher. Bias is bullish here, but again, with caution, because we could see things turn around. As we can see, it's already into resistance right here. So if it doesn't break the resistance level, it could just turn around. So like this, price can just drop from here. So watch out for that. Bias here is bullish. If it manages to get through the resistance here at 58.70, next target is 59.80 and then 61. So bullish bias for oil for now. Copper here has been stuck in this range. This is the daily chart. So if we take a look at the weekly, we see an indecision candle here. This is the range it's been trading in for several weeks now. It came into the bottom of the range and then moved up from there. So basically, we have a neutral candle this week. So I would just look to see where it wants to go. We have an inside range and then we have an outer range. So this is our outer range that it's been trading in. The inside range is this one right here. So at this point, I would just look to see what it wants to do. It does not make a solid case for either way. If it breaks through the support, I would look for it to go towards 2.50. On the other hand, though, if it holds above, then we can see a move back towards 2.66. So neutral bias for copper at this point. Bitcoin here, in the daily we had talked about, well, we've been talking about it being bearish. So we did see this big drop here right into the support that we had drawn. So this is still looking bearish, but that's an important support here. And we have a large pin. So last time we had a large pin here, which wasn't quite as big, but it had moved higher. So we could see a move back higher here. I have not looked at the chart for the weekend, so keep that in mind. But this is what I would look for here. So I'm neutral on this. What I'm basically looking for is if price holds above 68.30, then we could see a move higher. But if it can do one of these and come back, and then even if it could even continue lower because there's tons of room here. So for now, neutral bias for Bitcoin as well. If it breaks through the support, next target is 61.60. But if it holds above 68.30, I will look for a move back towards 8,000, first towards 7,700 and then towards 8,000. So neutral, I'm neutral on Bitcoin at this point. It's into some strong support. So just keep that in mind. All right, so let's take a look at equities here. Equities are still going strong, quite a move higher here. This week, though, we did see, or previous week, I should say, we did see a bit of a dip in here. At this point, it's neutral. We have a spinning top here, pins on both sides, small candle body. It doesn't give us a strong reason to trade in either direction here. So what I'm looking for, again, same thing we do with all the spinning tops here, looking for either for it to break the high. In that case, we'll look for a continuation move higher, or if it breaks through the support, then we're looking for a turnaround. And a lot of this will be dependent here on US and China, how things proceed. Also, we have been seeing the impeachment hearings. At this point, market is completely disregarding the impeachment hearings because everyone thinks that the Senate wouldn't impeach President Trump, even if the Democrats do. So it will get stuck and likely he will not get impeached, regardless of how the proceedings go. Therefore, it's not a big risk to the markets, or markets completely disregarding it. And therefore, the only thing really here is the US and China. Every time a positive comment comes out from US and China trade negotiations, we see that the equity markets, the indices go up even higher. But it's been they're at all-time highs, and that should be a reason for concern, because if you look at the economy is not doing as well as the stock market is telling us. That means there could be cracks forming in this bull run at some point, but it's still bullish. This week, though, I'm neutral on this. What I'm basically looking for is price could go and do a test of the high. If it stays below, then looking for a drop. If it drops through the support here, if it drops through the, what should I call it, the support at the bottom of this week's candle, then I will look for price to drop back into this 3022. Otherwise, if it breaks through the high of the candle, this week's candle, then 3180 will be the target. So essentially completely neutral and waiting for the market to show us where it wants to go. Nasdaq, same thing here. It's kind of stuck in this top here, and we have a neutral candle, same exact candle here that we have for S&P 500. So same strategy here. I will look to see if the price does a retest of the high. If it tests the high and then drops, then basically looking for a move lower. So for now, bias is neutral here for Nasdaq as well. Dow Jones here, this one looks similar as well. We have a spinning top, so neutral candle. We'll have to wait and see. Same thing that we talked about the other two applies to this one as well. If it goes through the support, I will look for it to drop. If it goes through the high here, I will look for it to move higher. So I'm just going to leave those targets there. All right, DAX here. DAX has actually given us another neutral candle. As we can see, this is the range it's decided to trade in for the last 3 weeks here. Now we have a completely neutral candle, a little bit bigger than the other two. Same thing applies though. If it retests the bottom, holds above, I will look for it to go towards the high. If it doesn't, we could basically get a range-bound move here. So watch out for that. So all of them are looking neutral at this point. FTSE is looking bullish here, but it's also rejecting the high. So this is also range bound, still in this range here. So bias here is neutral as well. Okay, Nikkei here. Nikkei, same thing. It's still stuck here in the neutral territory. It went up, it dropped, and now this is where we are with the neutral candle. This one seems to have a little bit more weakness here. So I will look for it to retest the low. If it doesn't go through, then we're looking for another range-bound move here as well. So bias is neutral. So neutral bias for all the indices at this point, and we'll just have to see how the markets progress as we go through the week. All right, so that brings us towards the end of the call here. Just a quick note. For the Trade Vault, or for the Black Friday, I should say, I'm doing a really big promotion right now. If you're interested in taking my course, the Learn to Trade Forex course, you get the Trade Vault for free. Generally, this for an entire year. Generally, it will cost you $1,500. It's $127 for a month. So in the Trade Vault, we do the analysis like we're doing here, except we do it on the daily basis, and you get a spreadsheet on a daily basis with the targets that I'm looking at and the market direction for each pair. If you're interested in this, you can go check it out at tradingwithvenus.com. You just need to buy the Learn to Trade Forex course, which is only $497, and you get $1,500 worth of 1 year of Trade Vault for free. So it's quite a deal if you're interested. So Herman, yeah, you can join. Actually, we don't use Skype anymore for the Trade Vault. It's on the Facebook group. But yes, you can join. You will get you'll get the course as well as Trade Vault access for free for an entire year if you're interested. All right, so that's it. And if you're looking to download the spreadsheet for today, you can go to tradingwithvenus.com/forecast, and all the targets that we talked about, you will get those. All right, enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a great trading week. I will see you next time. Bye for now.